Hey there, how you going? It's Yvonne here from Women's Fitness Adventures, founder and CEO. Thank you for joining me. Tonight I have a hot topic, and it's something I used to talk about a lot when we first started 11 years ago, and it was busting some common myths about whether you think you're not fit enough to hike, or you're too old, or you don't live close by, or you don't have a network, all those sorts of things. And I spoke about it a lot when I first started Women's Fitness Adventures, because it is the thing that holds a lot of women in particular back from adventure. And I'm updating it today because I have so many great stories about women who were in that position who now have gone on to do so many amazing things, but also how sometimes our language that we talk to ourselves, the language and the way we talk to ourselves and the things that we say to ourselves, you wouldn't say to your best friend, and then that puts you into that space of thinking, I couldn't do that type of thing. So if you're listening live, thank you very much. If you are watching on the replay, thank you as well. If you've got questions, please go ahead and drop them in. And if you have some examples you'd like to share, then drop those in as well. So hello, Alethea. Hello, Sharon. Hello, Patricia. Everyone's from the beach. Hello, Karen. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Leonie. Hello, Pauline. Lovely to have you here. My mouse is charging at the moment as well, so hopefully it will just filter those questions through. So, one of the myths that and it even came up today when someone on the trail bumped into a friend of theirs, and the friend said, I couldn't do what you do. I'd have to get fit to even join. And, I'm sure that many of you watching from here may have had that thought go through your head and ignored it and just jumped in anyway. Or some of you who are watching may have had that thought and it stopped you from a life of adventure. So one of the things, I say is that women, if you're going to do something, you'll do it pretty quickly. And if you, think about it too long, you'll talk yourself into it or out of it. But if you really want to do something, you'll just go ahead and do it. And I know that a lot of our members joined us because they didn't have friends that wanted to do hiking, that wanted to be in the same space as them. So if you think you're not fit enough to hike, what does that actually mean? And if any one of you, anyone who is watching live, would like to unpack what fit enough actually means. So let me give you an example. When we were on the trail this morning, we had women there from, probably late 40s to mid 70s. And one of them was saying, I feel slow today. And what we forget is that when we're hiking, when we're hiking in our groups, is that all of us come together for the love of hiking and the love of support and the love of looking out for each other and making great friendships. And when we do that regularly together, we're all progressing together. And what we forget, it's easy to compare ourselves to someone who might be 5 years younger, 10 years older. But what we forget, whether we're going fast or slow, that we are out there and we're doing it and we're on the trail. And that freedom of movement in our own bodies is a magical thing. What we're forgetting is that comparing ourselves, and we shouldn't compare, but comparing ourselves to the rest of the entire population, we're absolute rock stars if we are out there hiking. So if you think you're not fit enough to hike, then I challenge you to change that conception, because, conception is the wrong word, to change that that thought, because if you think you're not fit enough to hike, then you probably are. But it could be, the question is, am I fit enough to hike that trail? Am I fit enough to do that adventure? Am I fit enough to go there with those people? Rather than I'm not fit enough to hike. Because it could mean anything, and it limits your options as well. But the question that comes before that is, do I want to hike? Rather than, I feel that we are really in a place where it's easy to say, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too time poor, I'm too committed, I have too many things, too many this, too many that. It's easy to say that I am not this. It is much harder to say I am this. And the biggest fear of I'm not fit enough to hike is will I slow everyone down? Will I be a burden? Will they have to wait for me? When really they're just stories in our head. And depending on the group, and I had this conversation during the week hiking, talking about our group, and all of you who, if you're a member, know exactly what I'm talking about. The power of finding the right hiking community will start to change the way you think about, am I too old? Am I fit enough? Will I slow everyone down? What if I don't have the right gear? What if I don't have that? What if they abandon me? And some of the comments that came back over the weekend when I was chatting with some members were that you can tell that you're in the right community when you feel safe, when you feel that the people are coming from a genuine place of concern for you to be the whole person that you want to step into. And that was such a lovely, lovely thing to hear, because I know that every single one of the members in our community is concerned about the whole person. We're not, we may want to get to the end of the trail, we may want to summit that mountain, but the feeling of the team doing that together on adventure is such an important thing. And so if you think you're not fit enough to hike, well, how do you know? I challenge you to test that boundary. And if you've been sitting on the fence thinking about, I'd like to do that day hike, I'd like to do that hike, I'd like to, put my name down for that, then why not? What is really stopping you? Because if you were sitting in front of me, and if anyone wants to play this game with me, let's go for it. I don't think I'm fit enough to hike Great Ocean Road, for example. I would say to you, why? And you would say, I get out of breath, maybe, going uphill. And I would say, why? And you would say, because I get puffed. Why? And I would say, well, and you would say, when I ask you why you get puffed, because I do. I don't walk up and down stairs very much. Why? Or I don't walk on sand very much. Why? So it's not whether you are not fit enough to hike. It's just that your preparation for the hike isn't, or your preparation or your no preparation isn't setting you up for the thing that you want to do. So, and it's like anything, I'm not fluent enough in French to go and live in Paris for a year. Why not? Well, I don't actually study French. Okay, why not? Well, I don't have time to study French. So, we can say and put parameters around whatever we want. But when you dig down to the why, it just becomes a matter of priority. So saying we're not fit enough to hike is really, can I say an excuse? Or can I say that it is just that your priority isn't there? So just think about that. And I know when people ask me about running, they'll say, oh, are you a runner? And I'll say, yeah. And then they will say to me, I can't run because I wasn't asking anything about their running style, or their running at all. So just be careful of what you say to yourself in terms of that parameter of thinking you're not fit enough to hike. So one of the ladies today on our hike has been hiking with us for 8 years, and we all have ebb and flow of when we're in the flow of hiking, when we're in our rhythm, when it all seems easy, and we all have that ebb where life sometimes just piles a whole heap of stuff on us, and we can be looking after loved ones who aren't well, or we catch a cold, or we've just got to juggle so many things. And we can then start to go, I shouldn't be here. I'm not fit enough today. But what we forget is where we came from. And I remember when this lady first showed up, and her comment on that first day was, well, we had to get her to show up, because she rang and said, I'm not coming. I'm around the corner and I'm not coming. And I'm so glad she did, because her circle of friends is enormous, and the support and encouragement for her to be herself is amazing. But on that first day, she said, I'm going to die on this hill, which just, it was a big exaggeration. But to her, that getting out of breath, that getting uncomfortable was such a feeling of uncomfortableness that she felt like way out of her comfort zone and doing things she hadn't done. But you know what? She showed up the next week and the next week and the next week and the next week. And whether you live near us and hike with us regularly, or whether you don't live near us, and I know many of you don't, and you're hiking regularly or out and being active, is that act of showing up will get you to where you want to be. And so, and not every day is great. There are some days on the trail where I also think that, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I felt great 3 days ago and I don't feel great now. So, it is all that ebb and flow of what else goes on with our life. But to say or think that you're not fit enough to hike just means that you've got to flip that conversation around and go, well, why aren't I? Why aren't I fit enough to hike? Or I'm too old to hike. Well, why are you too old? There are people in their 20s that couldn't do what some of the women in our community do. There are people in their teens that can't do what some of the women in our community do. And many of them came to our community and to hiking and to being active in the outdoors after spending decades, in work roles, after looking after people, after, just caring and nurturing for others, everyone but themselves. And if they had have kept that conversation around, I'm not fit enough, I'm too old, I don't know anything, I'll get left behind, I'll get blah, 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 then, the whole opportunity of adventure, of travel, of everything would not have been available to them. So this lady who's been with us for 8 years that I just shared her story has now been on so many adventures. She went on one of her first international adventures a couple of years ago as well. In fact, we've taken several women on their first adventures, first time ever leaving the country, first time to Europe. And it is such a beautiful, magical thing to see. But if they had had that conversation of, or I can't do this because, what would people think? This isn't how I normally roll. This is so left field for me. What would people think of me? If they had stayed in that space and not been true to themselves, then this whole amazing world of personal growth, of tolerance, of acceptance, of looking at the world through a different lens, and then transforming and appreciating yourself wouldn't have shown up either. So I'm going to share this one here. And hello, Louise. Hello, Donna. Hello, Jackie. Hello, Elizabeth. And hello, Linda. And hello, Leanne. Nice to see you, Leanne. Louise says, and I've known Louise for about nearly 2 years, I think, Louise, or 18 months. If I had waited until I was fit enough, I wouldn't be a hiker and getting fitter and stronger. And I remember when Louise first started, and Louise, and I think I shared this story not long ago, over the days, the weeks, the months, and the years, those, what we can't see in ourselves is what other people can see. And I see a strong, committed woman who shows up to her to hiking, who challenges herself, because the challenge is only against ourselves. The challenge isn't against the hiker in front or the hiker behind. The hiker in front and the hiker behind are there for support. They're for encouragement. They're there for motivation and inspiration as well. We show up for ourselves. And the most beautiful thing is to see a woman moving freely through the world. Because I say this often, when we can move freely, we have choices. And when we have choices, we have freedom. And that is such a cherished thing these days, especially these days. And hello, Leanne. Nice to have you here. And hello, Elisa from Narre Warren in Victoria as well. But, over the years, I've been doing this a long time. Jane, who is one of our leaders, actually all of our leaders have been doing this a long time, guiding women through exactly the same worries. And I know some of you that have been on adventures with us, and you'll lift your level to the next adventure, but you'll still have those doubts. But you know what the difference is that the formula. you have the confidence that the one you've done before will take you to the next one, and that self-belief in yourself. And that self-belief is a muscle that we flex when we go hiking, when we get stronger, when we learn to trust ourselves. Hiking has so many parallels for so many aspects of our life, but when we learn to trust ourselves through that simple act of putting one foot in front of the other, it starts to push away some of those doubts about what we're capable of. So yes, we get out of breath going uphill. Every single person in the world, even Usain Bolt, would get out of breath going uphill. It might take him a little bit longer to get out of breath, but he will still get out of breath, because guess what? You are breathing. But we will teach techniques to get you uphill, to make it easier to get uphill. And our masterclass coming up in April is about that, navigating hills, uphill and downhill, and how to make them easier or more manageable for you, and how do we get that recovery. And fitness is such, and I've said this before, and if any of you have a story, it is such a relative thing. So if we all went and hung around the 100-meter sprinters or the marathoners that break Olympic records, then we would think that we're not fit enough. But if we go and hang around people who never get off the couch, and yet we walk and do some movement every day, we're more than fit. So it is such a relative thing, and a lot of it is in our own head. Same with age. Age is absolutely no barrier. You see those stories pop up on social media of the 100-year-old that started running. She only took it up and now she holds the world record. There wouldn't be many that would be running at that age, but it is the real that plays in our head that stops us from doing a lot of things. So I know that there's many of you on here that also have been in that space where you think you're not fit enough, but you've jumped in anyway and found that the support is such an amazing thing. Now, I've had some moments where I've been exactly the same. I've been stuck on the side of a mountain, and I'm not great with heights, and in our early days we used to do some bigger mountains, and we don't do those now. And thinking, oh my God, why did I sign up for this? I have so many doubts. But you know what? I got to the top. I was literally only 5 meters from the top of this mountain. I got to the top and I felt so good. I felt that I had achieved so much. But those self-doubts are real for all of us. The difference is between an adventurer, a multi-day hiker, a hiker, or someone who is out and active, is that conversation in their head. Now, Patricia, I haven't read it, but I'm going to share it anyway. So it's got some wonderful things to say. Self-talk can be destructive. We need to make it positive and to realize that we can do hiking if we really want to. Absolutely. And you're testament to that, my dear. And we continue to turn up and be active. We need to be aware of that imposter syndrome. It will pop up in our heads if we don't keep going. Absolutely. Well said, Patricia. And we can all feel like imposters in our own life at any point in time. But if you were to tell your best friend the thoughts in your head about them, they would probably slap you down. So why do we not... why do we say that to ourselves? So I'm going to share another story of someone who thought they weren't fit enough. She hadn't hiked for about 20 years, had an injury when she stopped hiking, and, just got busy with life, with her business, with all sorts of things, and wanted to get back into hiking. And sometimes all you need is someone to show you the way. All you need is someone to hold your hand and show you what's possible, rather than a world of no, and you can't do that, and that's not possible, and sabotaging before you start, not just yourself sabotaging, but, the world sabotaging you as well. Because let's face it, when you look on social media and you look at a lot of those hiking things that are trying to sell you stuff, clothing and gear and that, they all look like they just stepped out of a magazine or the social media reel. And they can be things that stop you from having that conversation as well. But so back to the conversation of this lady that we recently hiked with, and she was in her mid-60s, and so had not hiked for 20 years and was trying to get back into hiking because it was the thing that brought her joy. It brought her joy those 20 years ago. She just hadn't found a way to get back through. And if she had said, I'm not fit enough, she would still be sitting in her lounge room. She would still be working in her business all day, every day. So, having the courage to step forward, to put your hand out to someone who is literally or metaphorically giving you a gift of support is such a wonderful thing. So I'm going to share Elisa's comments here. Hello, Elisa. Love hiking. Coming from Chile. I love mountains. I love Chile. Life gets so busy and I try to stay active. Absolutely, it does. And I said to my husband the other day, we become empty nesters this week. And I said to him, instead of us sitting after dinner, watching TV, why don't we go for a walk? Because otherwise we're just sitting watching TV and we're on our devices as well. So let's get active and go for a walk. So we're going to hopefully start that tonight if he gets home from work in time. But you are right, Elisa. Life does get busy, and depending what stage we're at. But, I shared this, I'm sure I've shared this before. My daughter who recently last week moved out to live in another city, we think as women, as mothers in particular, that giving that gift of time to ourselves to go and get fit, to go to the gym, to go for a half an hour walk, to do this thing is a selfish thing. I get it. And when my kids were little, I would try and get all the jobs done, but still feel guilty if I went out for a half an hour walk. But, my daughter made me this jar. It would be 10 years ago. And of all the things that she remembered and liked about her mum. And one was that, Mum, you showed me that as a woman, you can do work, you can do play, but you can also carve out time for yourself. And that is a great gift that you can give anyone. So, she's a beautiful daughter. The guilt never goes away. We just get better at managing the guilt. So, if you're not fit enough to hike and you want to go hiking, then let's find a way. Let's reach out to that helping hand. And I was sharing the helping hand story on a recent hike in New Zealand and also again today. And I'm not sure if I've shared it here, but when I was in our early days of hiking, and tell me if I've shared it, and this is a story that applies to anything. So if you're thinking you're not fit enough to hike, or you're too old to hike, or you don't have the right gear to hike, I am extending my hand to you as this story, as a parallel to this story. So in our early days, we would do a lot in Southeast Queensland because that's where we initially were. And I would always be at the back. Our leaders are always at the back. So we have, when we're on big long day hikes or anything, multi-days, we always have a guide and we have one of our leaders at the back. And so I was always at the back, and our guide, there were some logs to get over and stuff like that. And he would always put out his hand to me, and I would always know. And same with friends. If we were hiking with, family friends, and the guys would go over and they put out their hand, and I go, no, I don't need your help. I can do this on my own. Is that you? And so after a while, they went, fine, strong, independent woman, good on you. I'm not putting my hand out anymore. And then guess what? One time we're hiking and the guide, he looked back and he went, oh yeah, it's just Yvonne at the back. She doesn't need my help. I'm not going to offer my hand. And guess what? The time that he didn't offer his hand was the time that I needed help. So we were coming up through some rocks and I was the last person. Everyone was safely through this rocky area. And guess what? I fell backwards. Fortunately, my backpack was full of stuff, and I didn't fall very far. I literally fell like from your bottom height, your bum to the ground. But it was walking up through this rocky crevice, and I fell backwards, and I fell onto my pack. So I didn't hurt myself, but what I did was I fell, and my legs was literally lying on my back, and my legs were spread. wide, and the guide comes back and he looks down and he goes, and it was very unflattering and very embarrassing, but he goes, "You okay? You scared me shitless there." And I went, "Yeah, I'm fine." But you know what I learned from that, apart from being incredibly embarrassed, was that if anyone holds out a hand in any aspect of life, and sometimes it's not the hand, it's the metaphorical hand, someone is offering to show you the way, or someone is offering to give you a gift of support. And that looks different in different ways. And so if you think and getting back to this thinking you're not fit enough to hike, well, let me change your mind, because there is always a hand there somewhere. You just have to find the right hand that belongs to the right person to show you the way to get to hiking or to get back to hiking. So the lady in New Zealand, I spent a lot of time with her on the trails because we weren't as fast as the rest of the group. And we had a guide at the front, and, she's found a way back. She's found a way back to hiking. In the discussions that we had, she knew what she needed, or now knows what she needs to do to get that cardio stronger. She now knows what she needs to do to be able to lift her feet a bit more. So the gift for her is the hand of showing the way. But if she had said, "I'm not fit enough to hike, I'm not even going to put my hand up to go on that hike," then she would never have found the gift, the lending of the hand, the helping hand, to find her way back to the thing she loved, which was hiking. So, the hands are everywhere. This is a big metaphor, isn't it? The hands are everywhere. And I hope that somewhere in this story, you've learned that saying you're not fit enough to hike or you're too old to hike is just a story that you're telling yourself, that if you need to flick that story around to say, "I want to hike, but show me how," and finding that right hand, that right person, that right community that is going to give you that gift to show you the way forward. Because let me tell you, and I know many of you are here listening off on some fantastic adventures close to home and the other side of the world that you would never have thought possible a couple of years ago. And I know, Patricia, you're heading to the Camino, and Sharon's heading to Germany and the Pyrenees. And, there's so many of you here doing amazing things. And that's just the ones who come to mind that you would never have thought possible if you cast your mind back to 5 years ago. And literally 5 years ago today, Australia shut down completely because of the pandemic. And 5 years ago, would you have ever thought that you would be doing something like this? But many of you joined on our 5K for 5 day program. Would you have ever found the way if we hadn't have given you that hand? So I want you to take that away, but not just take it away for "I'm not fit enough to hike," but for every aspect of your life, because people really want you to succeed. I really want you to succeed in every aspect of your life, in particular hiking, because I know the transformative benefits that it can give you when you get outside and you give yourself that gift of just being back to you. So Kerry Lee Ellen, love that. Yeah, thank you, Kerry. Thank you. Sharon says this is it. Sharon says we all walk into our fitness. We just have to start. Yep, because if you don't start, you're never going to do anything. You're never going to be fit enough to hike. And we know on multi-day adventures, no matter how hard they are, and I've done Kokoda track in New Guinea twice, the first time he marched us like the military through. And then the second time I went with a different group. But I got fitter every single day that I showed up, thinking on that first one, which was not part of a work thing, it was a personal holiday, that I don't think I can do this. But as we marched forward, no matter what your fitness level comes from, you get fitter each time you do it. Gwen says, my first happy tears with Women's Fitness Adventures was a helping hand rock hopping through my fear of falling. Yeah, I love that, Gwen. I can't even remember when that first time was, but rock hopping through a fear of falling. So many things in that reaching out of the hand, that community of Women's Fitness Adventures, rock hopping, a skill you probably may have done as a kid and then stepped away from, and the fear of falling. And we all have this no matter what aspect of our life, fear of falling or fear of failure or fear of looking silly because we haven't done it before. So thank you, Gwen. And Leonie, always with wisdom, says, today is the youngest we will ever be. Yep. So don't waste a day not getting out there to hike. Yeah. And, I bumped into one of our members on Saturday morning. I was just out at a cafe and she came over and said hello. And she's been doing a lot of hiking with us, but also a lot of her own personal travels. And she said, too many people too close to me have had too many tragedies that every day is a gift, and to do it while I can, because today I can. So I encourage you that if you even have an inkling of you want to do something, you don't know what it is, but you want to get outdoors, you want to go hiking and you don't know where to start, or you want to step up, then reach out. If you're one of our members and you know people out there that want to do it, you be the helping hand. You be the helping hand for them, because that helping hand comes in so many different ways. So that's it from me today. Thank you so much. Such beautiful, rich conversations there. And if you're watching on replay, please contribute to the conversation. I look forward to catching up with you next week. Who knows what we're going to cover then? Thank you.